Statement of intent, and I say brief, I'm going to challenge them, maximum maybe 40 seconds each, and I think it would be a good idea to do it in sort of general election result order. So Gareth Snell, you're defending this seat for the Labour Party, so why should the voters of Stoke Central vote for you?
Because the Potteries is my home, it's where my daughter was born at Royal Stoke, it's where I met my wife and where I've built my family. I'm invested in this community. I also want to make sure that whoever goes to Westminster is shouting up for a properly funded, publicly run NHS. I want to make sure we're getting the investments in our schools, in our roads, and I want to make sure that our public services are protected. I genuinely believe what Stoke-on-Trent Central needs is a strong local representative in Westminster, and I believe that can be me.
So I take it from that your emphasis is on the NHS rather than Brexit, because there's talk that it's one issue or the other that's really driving the headlines here.
No, I think it's a both. Brexit is an opportunity for Stoke-on-Trent, but the NHS is something that lots of people are raising on the doorsteps with me. We've got a brilliant hospital. It's underfunded and understaffed, and we need to make sure that we're fighting to get a Brexit that works for Stoke-on-Trent and that we're getting the funding that we need for the NHS.
OK, Paul Nuttall, UKIP finished second here in the general election, so it's you next up to explain your case to the electorate here.
Well, I think what Stoke-on-Trent Central needs is a national leader, a national voice, a champion in the House of Commons, someone who can stand up and be heard by other MPs and by the government. We know in this election there's issues surrounding jobs, homelessness, housing, the local hospital and the problems that has there too. But let's not forget, 70% of people in Stoke-on-Trent voted to leave the European Union. It became the capital of Brexit on June the 23rd. We can make it the capital of change on February the 23rd.
You say it's Brexit central and you've stressed it there, but isn't the reality that health, in terms of the public mind here, given all the strains on the local hospital, is more the issue on the doorsteps than the European Union is?
It's both. It's about making Brexit work. It's about getting real Brexit, what people voted for, which is controlling borders, being able to sign trade deals, getting more investment into the area. But yes, you're absolutely right. The local hospital is an issue. It's underperforming. The staff need more help, and we want to see more money go into it. OK,
Jack Brereton, the Conservatives only very, very narrowly third behind UKIP at the general election, but that makes it this your moment, really, to put your case to the electorate.
Well, I'm born and bred in Stoke-on-Trent. I've lived in the city my entire life, and I'm the only candidate here who already represents part of this constituency in the local council. But this election comes at an important time for Stoke-on-Trent and our country. People locally voted overwhelmingly to leave the European Union, and that result must be respected. Now, Theresa May, our Prime Minister, has a clear plan to deliver Brexit, and I'm backing that plan.
You're in charge of the regeneration aspect of the council, as the cabinet man on that point. Business hates uncertainty, and isn't that exactly what you're delivering them in this Brexit negotiation?
Well, it's important that we have an economic deal with Europe, and our Prime Minister has, in her 12-point plan, put in to pursue a clear and ambitious trade deal with the rest of Europe, and that's about ensuring that we do protect those links with Europe to build business and also to ensure that we protect the jobs, the important jobs in our ceramics industry in the city.
OK. Dr. Zulfikar Ali, this is your point now to put your case to the voters.
Well, as you said, I'm a doctor. I have worked for NHS for many, many years. I have served as a local councillor from the ward within the central constituency. I live locally within the city. I know people, the problem they face on a day-to-day basis. I'm fearing if we leave the single market, there will be loss of manufacturing, loss of trade, and there will be loss of jobs. And also fear there will be loss of research fund coming to local universities here. I'm also campaigning against reduced funding, which Theresa May's government is providing, or not increasing funding to our NHS and the struggling NHS. I'm campaigning to increase the funding to solve the problem.
OK. The Liberal Democrats have a tradition in this constituency of generally finishing in second place, but at the last election when you stood, you fell back from that. Isn't there not a danger that you're going to be drowned out by the others again?
Not at all. Look, in 2015, we were in coalition, and when you're in government, things do not necessarily go in your way. And look at what's happening recently. We have reduced Zach Goldsmith's majority of, well, in fact, we have overturned a majority of 23,000 votes in Richmond Park. We have, in Whitney, we have reduced David Cameron's constituency's a majority of from 25,000 votes to 20,000 votes.
Okay.
Look at in Sunderland what we've done actually. We have won a seat from Labour Party only after Brexit. Our candidate in local election got only 90 votes, and 6 months later on took a seat from the Labour Party.
We'll explore that a little bit later on, but Adam Colclough for the Green Party, this is your moment to talk directly to the voters here.
I was born in Stoke. I understand this city and the challenges it faces. I understand that we have to move on from a low-wage economy and bring quality jobs to the city. We need to fix our infrastructure and end the misery of gridlock. Stoke is a ceramic city. We led the world in the first industrial revolution. With the Green Party fighting its cause, we can do so again in the second.
And that's the distinctive message that you have. Isn't there a danger that you and the Liberal Democrats are sort of fishing in the same pool? Your voters are actually in a very similar area of the market.
I don't think so. I think the Greens bring a new message. We are bringing an open, fairer type of politics that works for the common good. We aren't contaminated with some of the things that have touched other parties in terms of the way they're funded, and we are there on the ground, working for local people every day.
Okay. Well, thank you for the moment. It's clear from what you said there that there is this two issues which are really centre stage in this, and of course this is an area where something like 70%, maybe more in some areas, voted to leave the European Union. You've made no secret, Gareth, in pretty strong language at times of what you think of the idea of Brexit. Is that not exactly the sort of wedge that Labour has between someone like you, an instinctive Remainer like Paul Farrelly in Newcastle-under-Lyme, who's implacable on this? You would just be presenting the Labour Party with the same problem if you got elected to Westminster.
No, absolutely not. I mean, I think Paul Farrelly was absolutely wrong to vote the way he did. His constituents gave him a clear steer. He should have respected that. I've made it very clear that if I'm elected as the MP for Stoke-on-Trent Central, I will absolutely respect the vote that was given in this constituency. The two Labour MPs in Stoke already, Ruth Smeeth and Rob Fuller, have already been to London to trigger Article 50. But we've got to have a plan that works for Brexit. We've got to make sure that the opportunities that are now provided because of Brexit are being delivered here in Stoke-on-Trent. We've got to make sure that we're getting those trade deals to protect the ceramic industry. We've got to make sure that we are dealing with the issues that we know are affecting Stoke-on-Trent, and Brexit provides us with an opportunity to do that.
But bearing that in mind, Paul Nuttall, the pottery industry itself, which is one of the big success stories in this city, overwhelmingly the industry itself wanted to remain in the EU.
That's why I was speaking with the ceramic industry the other day, and what they now realise is that there are great opportunities outside the European Union, because we can then go on and sign trade deals all over the world, like the majority of other countries on the planet. And let's not forget, we're still the 5th largest economy on the globe, and we have fantastic opportunities now we're out of this sclerotic block. And I think the potteries will thrive as a result of that momentous vote on June 23rd.
Isn't there a danger, though, that, you know, the party's over, you've got mission accomplished on leaving the EU, you've got sort of company now, your USP is no longer a unique selling, you've got Jack and the Tories who are also the party of Brexit.
We are delivering Brexit, and that's the key thing. You know, we're the only party who's got a clear plan to deliver Brexit, and Theresa May's plan. And I met with the Prime Minister only this week to discuss that plan and ensure that we're getting the best deal for Stoke-on-Trent.
Can I ask that, Jack, where does ceramics come in that plan?
Well, absolutely. And in terms of that ambitious free trade deal,
ceramics come in that plan?
Well, they are part of that ambitious free trade deal to ensure that we link in with those economies, ensure we preserve the free trade links with the rest of Europe to preserve jobs in this city.
The word ceramics doesn't appear in that plan.
The question was, what is the relevance of UKIP now? Well, the thing that we know from Theresa May is that she's always been very good at talking the talk, whether it's reducing immigration when she was Home Secretary. She never, ever walks the walk. And we need UKIP to exist to ensure that the government's feet are held to the fire and we get real Brexit.
Meantime, in this strongly Leave-minded area, we have the Liberal Democrats who are presenting an unambiguously anti-Brexit message. That doesn't sound like a great plan on the face of it.
I'm the only opposing candidate here. They're all three in an alliance, an unholy alliance. Look at Labour's candidate. He was opposing Brexit, and now after the Brexit referendum, he's following the UKIP line, and they're hiding behind UKIP and Conservative Party. Look, I was talking to, a week before last, to Lauren Darby, who is the director of British Ceramics Confederation, and she was quite clear there's a huge degree of uncertainty. If we leave single market, we have to fall back on World Trade Organization tariffs.
Your party's calling for a second referendum on the EU. Who on earth, particularly in Stoke-on-Trent, wants another referendum?
We respect the people the way they voted. What we want to do, we don't want to have a stitch-up by Liam Fox, Boris Johnson and David Davis. We want people to have a say on the final deal.
How do you see it? Because you're an anti-Brexit party as well. Again, you're sort of fishing in the same pond.
We're a party that has voted against the rushing into triggering Article 50, because only this week the House of Lords highlighted that in the Brexit agreement there is no mention of disabled people. A hard Brexit will damage the most vulnerable people, and in an area like Stoke, and I see this as a charity worker, that will have devastating consequences on people. People, I'm sure, that councillors like Jack and Gareth see in their surgeries.
I think that leads us to the other big theme here, which is the NHS and the very, very long trolley waits at the Royal Stoke, some of the longest that have been seen anywhere. This has to be a crashing embarrassment for your campaign, given that Jeremy Hunt has said only this week that the sort of delays seen here and elsewhere are unacceptable.
Well, we have to remember that the health services are dealing with more patients than ever before. There are things that need to improve, and that's why we've committed to investing an additional £10 billion by 2020. We've already created another over 10,000 more doctors.
The Commons Health Select Committee, incidentally, disputes that figure, doesn't it?
Well, these are the true facts. We've created over 13,000 more nurses. But let's look at what's happening in Wales, where Labour are in charge, cutting the budget by 8%, the only part of the UK where they're cutting the budget on our health services.
Well, let's focus on Stoke-on-Trent rather than on Wales, because, you know, it's a hospital.
Well, you'd want to do the same, Gareth, to Stoke.
No, that's not true. I mean, Jack very clearly forgets that it was the Tory government for the last 7 years that's been slashing our NHS. It's been putting incredible strain.
£1.3 billion less at the last election for our NHS.
Look, Jack,
than the Conservatives.
I take no lessons off the Tory party about the NHS. The Labour Party created the NHS and we clear up the mess every time, and we'll do it again. The fact is that we've got an NHS in North Staffordshire that is struggling. It is underfunded, it is understaffed. What it needs is an injection of more cash so we can get more doctors and more nurses.
Now, for UKIP, you've had your difficulties on the health sector. I remember Nigel Farage during the election having to sort of pull back from a suggestion that private insurance might be a way into the sort of funding difficulties of the NHS, and you have yourself spent a lot of time fending off the suggestion that you've called for sort of privatisation of certain aspects of it. So let's get your version of how UKIP would deal with this and maybe deal with those suspicions.
Well, look, I mean, I made a few comments back in 2011 when I was speaking about bringing more competition into the NHS, particularly in the area of procurement, where the NHS was paying over 30 times over the odds for certain drugs. UKIP has never gone into any election or had any manifesto which has talked about the privatisation of the NHS. No, it hasn't. No, it hasn't, Gareth. No, it hasn't. No, it's never. Our policy at the 2015 general election was simply this: we want to see £3 billion extra a year for the NHS and £1.2 billion extra.
It does feed into the question of trust, though.
Hang on, for social care. But the key to this is UKIP is committed to keeping the NHS public and free at the point of delivery.
Okay, Patrick, hold on. But the manifesto that Paul promoted as the national organiser in 2010 called for more marketisation inside the NHS. Your name was on that. Your name was on that. It went to the electorate and they didn't accept it. You are on record as having supported privatisation.
No, we as a party had a debate between 2012 and 2014, and we fell upon the policy that the NHS should remain public and free at the point of delivery. And we're the only party, by the way, who can tell you where the money will come from, because we will slash a foreign aid budget which is costing the British people £30 million every
Dr.
single
Ali,
day.
you of course are a cardiologist, so you speak with both a political and professional expertise.
Look, yes, I am the one who has worked on the front line, basically, for NHS for many, many years. Labour Party has provided some new building here locally through PFI, and that has reduced our bed numbers by 400, and that's really massive reduction of bed numbers for any hospital, for any requirement, for any standard of care we can provide our public expects. Nationally, we have average of 2.7 beds per 1,000 population, but here in Stoke-on-Trent it's less than 2 beds per 1,000 population, which is way far below national standards. And even nationally, that's not enough. If you compare with Germany, 6.2 beds per 1,000 population, and I think the problem has been compounded by the PFI.
I'm sorry to rush you, but we must bring Adam in. Your prescription for the NHS, please, Adam.
Labour here are describing themselves as defenders of the NHS. We are losing 254 community hospital beds. The Green Party is the only local political party that put forward a reasoned case against it. Labour signed a statement that was written for them. We made a case against it. We have challenged the CCG at meetings, and we will carry on doing so after this election.
I need to come back on that because the Labour Party has been protecting beds at Bradwell Hospital. We've been leading that campaign over across North Staffordshire. We've been at the public meetings, and you rock up before an election and claim that suddenly you're the defenders of the NHS. That simply won't wash local.
Let's just put this PFI deal in perspective. Okay, the hospital cost £415 million to build. It's going to take £2.7 billion to pay back. That was £58 million last year. That cost the trust in interest alone. It's insane.
We could go on, but I'm going to sort of pause for breath here and just give ourselves a moment of reflection so far as other candidates are concerned, because yes, there are 5 others battling it out, as well as the ones who are here this morning, who are standing on, I can tell you, quite an assortment of policies. Now we're going to have more from Emma Thomas. She's been talking at least to some of them.
From the armed forces to politics, Godfrey is a retired Navy officer.
I believe that the man of God is the one that's properly qualified to run a city and a country, because it says in the Bible, it does not lie in man who walks to know how to direct his steps.
A seasoned candidate, David also ran for London Mayor in 2016.
The British National Party is the only anti-establishment party in this election. UKIP is a Tory splinter group. Voting for me, David Furness of the BNP, will send the strongest possible message of protest to the out-of-touch and corrupt political establishment.
A first-time candidate, Barbara is a housewife and bookkeeper from Draycote in the Moors.
I want to abolish the Magna Carta and bring back the monarchy to be head of government, because I can't do worse than what the politicians have done before. I want to bring back all the industry that we've lost, that's been sent abroad to other nations. We've lost everything, all because of the politicians.
Calling himself the Shadow Minister for Abolition of Gravity, this is the Incredibles' 4th by-election.
I used to be a werewolf, but I'm all right. No! I will put piranha in the River Trent to make fishing a spectator sport. Bishop to C5 and knight to D6. Checkmate. Vote for the monster raving loony party. You know it makes sense.
And one other candidate is standing in this by-election. Mohammed Akram is running as an independent. We invited him to take part in Emma's report, but he wasn't available to do so. There are more details about all the candidates on my blog, incidentally. You can go to that at bbc.co.uk/Patrick Burns, and I'm all one word. Just to resume with some of the sort of wider political issues that are involved in this. And of course, the Sunday papers again today, Gareth, are sort of awash with speculation about your leader, Jeremy Corbyn. When you were re-elected to Newcastle Council, you said that your success had nothing to do with Jeremy Corbyn. That suggests that you're not a great fan of his, and yet you're the man who's sort of carrying the flag for him.
I actually said that the success of my council by-election was because of the effort of local people, and that's the point that I was making, because the Labour Party is a family, and when we come together...
And you've also tweeted about his support for the IRA, and...
We had a very fractious summer leadership election. Jeremy...
He also tweeted that Braxmore was a pile-up. I'm not going to say next. He should have explained that himself.
We had a very fractious leadership election over the summer. We now have a leader. Jeremy has been overwhelmingly elected by the membership of the party, and he's been up to support me, and for that I'm very grateful, and I'll be supporting him when he wants to make his bid to be the next Prime Minister of the United Kingdom and lead a Labour government.
But biting your lip as you do so?
No, absolutely not. Look, the Labour Party is the only party that is able to offer an alternative to the Conservative Party. We like all good families, we have a bust-up, we dust ourselves off, we get on with the job at hand, and we're going to win the next election with Jeremy as our leader. Now
Paul Nuttall, you'll remember, spoke a few weeks ago on Sunday Politics when I challenged you about the fact that so early in your leadership of UKIP, especially given that Nigel Farage's shoes are very big ones to fill, you are taking a real risk. I'm going to press you on this, because were you not to win here, early in your leadership, you would give the sense that maybe you've got that loser tag around your neck before you've even got started.
Well, look, I'm not considering losing this election. However, it is going to be close, I suspect. I'll still only be 12 weeks into my leadership. It's going to be a long-term project, and we believe we've got a great opportunity, not only because people are attracted to UKIP's cause and UKIP's policies, but the Labour Party at the present moment in time resemble a shambles. They've got a leader who has nothing in common with people in the constituency. You've got a front bench which is made up of people who sneer at the flag, won't sing the national anthem, say nice things about the IRA, and think anyone who questions immigration is a racist. So, these have got nothing in common with the people of Stoke-on-Trent. They've got more in common with the people of Stoke Newington and London.
Yeah, I mentioned, Jack, that you're the cabinet member responsible for regeneration, and bearing in mind that there's a real jobs issue, a higher unemployment than the UK average, you've got quite a job on there, sort of a real challenge, surely, when you look at bringing in the economic warmth. There is encouraging news from Staffordshire as a whole, but getting it, and there are success stories within Stoke, of course, but spreading that generally across the city, you've got a big job on.
Well, I've been responsible for delivering over £500 million of investment in this city, and already with the Ceramic Valley Enterprise Zone, we've created over 1,000 new jobs just in the last year. We're going to ensure that we create 8,000 more over the next 5 years, but it's also more about jobs, and I think that is one of my top priorities, to create not just more jobs, but better skilled jobs, and better paid jobs for the local people.
What's it going to take to do that, though? Because we hear about an industrial strategy. Where's the money for it?
Well, I think that is really important, having that industrial strategy, because that is getting more skills, better skills in the city, better jobs. But I think we do need to continue the investment, attract more private investment as well.
Adam, I can see you want to get in on this. You're very much the local guy
if we want to bring
in this constituency.
Skilled jobs to this city, but we need to fix our infrastructure. Now, the council wasted nearly £1 million on a failed HS2 bid. There's a site up in Etruvia which we could use as the hub for a tram system covering this city that would bring training for skilled jobs for engineers, electricians, administrators, would bring investment to local companies. That is how we drive the economy forward. Just talking about an industrial plan. Mrs May has lots of plans, and they tend to be catchphrases.
Do you have a distinctive message for the
That's right. I think all these three major parties, other than myself, who are in alliance, basically they are taking Stoke-on-Trent on a path of destruction. With leaving European single market, we would not have enough trade with the European Union. We would be out of competition, and as a result, there will be less investment even within the country and within the city. Even Ceramic Federation, they're fearing that 1,300 jobs, which are within Stoke-on-Trent central constituency, they could be at risk as well. We would be totally out of competition in the European market, and basically to have an investment in Stoke-on-Trent, we have to deregulise.
Okay, I'm going to ask each of you. Zulfikar thinks your party would take this area in a path to destruction.
Well, firstly, I really respect your position, because at least you're honest.
Thank you very much.
Okay, at least you're honest about where you stand. Look, the simple fact is we have a huge trading deficit with the European Union. We're the German car manufacturers' biggest marketplace, we're the French farmers' biggest marketplace. They need a free trade deal more than we do. They need us more than we need them. It will be on the table, and we'll make a great success of it.
Path to destruction?
I mean, first of all, if Dr. Ali wants to talk about dodgy alliances, he should remember the 5 years his party spent propping up a Tory government. I mean, that's the fact. I mean, one of the things that I've been speaking to the ceramic industry and some of our big manufacturers, what they need is some stability. They need to know what is going to happen, not just until we leave the EU, but what's going to happen on day 1 and day 2 of the European Union. Jack's made a lot about supporting Theresa May's plan, but what we need is a Potteries plan, a plan that works for Stoke-on-Trent, that means that the businesses that we have can start to make those decisions about investment, they can create the jobs that they can do, and we can see this city flourish.
What do you say to Zulfikar? Path to destruction.
Well, what we're doing as the Conservatives is we're actually delivering, because other parties might promise, we're actually delivering, and with Theresa May's clear plan, with her 12-point plan, that will ensure that we make a success of Brexit and respect the will of local people.
Now, obviously, anybody who's spent 5 minutes in this city knows that it's a city with a very, very strong sense of local identity, which is why everybody obviously has a real sort of challenge to make sure they speak convincingly here. You are the local man, Adam. You grew up in this place. What are your credentials, particularly as the man who knows this?
Well, my credentials are I was born here. I've also been active in local charities. I'm the chair of trustees for one local mental health charity. I run a support group for another. I meet local people every day and listen to their problems and try and help them solve their problems.
How important is it to come from this part of the country, Zulfikar?
Well, look, I came to this part of the country in 2001 to work in local hospital. I like this place, and since I made this place my home, I live here. My children go to school locally, and I talk to people on a day-to-day basis. I know the problem they have, and I know that there is a huge degree of fear. And at the time of referendum, people were given misinformation that we would not be leaving single market. Now we've been told we'll be leaving single market. We've been told there'll be £350 million a week coming back, which we'll be spending on NHS. Where's the £350 million coming? There's no money coming back. So basically, I think people need to have another say what final deed they want to have.
Okay. This question of localness is a bit of an issue, isn't it? Because I would suggest to you that the business of registering a local address for your nomination papers landed you with a little bit of an embarrassment, and you've subsequently had to move. I mean, I'm sure everybody deplores threats and all the rest of it.
I've had to, because people have tried to break into the property. And, you know, it's dangerous. In the post-Joe Cox era, I'm a high-profile politician. I don't feel safe, OK? So it was done with the returning officers agreement as well. What I will say is that this isn't a council election. This is to elect an MP, OK? Now, Winston Churchill wasn't local to Dundee. Harold Wilson wasn't local to Higham.
How does a Scouser go down in Potteries land?
Well, it doesn't matter. I mean, well, look, we're from very similar communities. The Labour MP for Stoke North is from Edinburgh. The Labour MP for Stoke South is from Birmingham. They're not local people. You're sending an MP. And I'm a national voice, a national figure, and people will listen, and I'll do a great job for this.
Were your nomination papers lawful? Do they comply with electoral law?
There is no legal problems whatsoever with this, OK? Absolutely, we're within the rules.
So how local? Newcastle under Lyme, just up the road?
My house is 3 miles away from where we're standing now. I've never hidden the fact that I wasn't born here, but I hope you'll forgive me, Patrick, that wasn't something I had much say over. But I've made my life here. I've lived in the area for 13 years. My daughter, who is now 6, goes to a local school. She was born at the hospital. My wife has worked in the city. I've worked in the city. But what I think is important, and Paul has referenced both Rob and Ruth. Rob and Ruth came to Stoke because they wanted to help the city. I've come to Stoke and I live in the area because I want to help the Potteries. Okay. I believe, for Paul, this is a pit stop on his way to Parliament. This is a means to an end for him. He has shown no interest in Stoke before.
And you have had a few difficulties
now
reciting the names of the 6 towns. Can you do it here today?
Come on. Well, 2 of them, only 2 of them in the constituency.
Can you name them?
Burslem, Hanley, Stoke, Fenton, Longton, Tunstall.
Got them
there
right.
You go.
There we go.
I'm sorry, it had to be done. The question had to be asked. Right. I'm sure you can recite them, but Jack, I mean, there is a sense that there's a bit of sort of warfare almost if you talk to, well, you go to Burslem or Fenton, and all the investment goes into Hanley. There are real tensions here, which must be quite difficult to breathe.
I think it's important that we invest in all of our communities. I've already been delivering locally. I've been a councillor for part of this constituency for the last 6 years. I'm delivering as the cabinet member, delivered 1,000 jobs, as I said, only in the last year. So I'm delivering for this city. I'm born and bred locally, got married in Stoke-on-Trent, lived in the city all my life.
All right, as we near the end of this programme, I'm just going to remind you that the biggest challenge possibly is getting the voters to turn out, because just under half, 49.9% at the general election, this is the moment where you guys actually have to get those people to stir their stumps. What are you going to say to them, beginning with you, Adam, to actually get off their armchairs, get out the front door and vote on February the 23rd?
I think this election matters more than most because the world is looking at Stoke, and we need to send a clear message that this is a progressive city where the politics of the far right are not welcome.
This by-election it could be history-making by-election. The result of this will be paving the way which way the future of the UK is. If we vote one of these major party candidates, then obviously we're going to have a hard Brexit and jobs locally would be suffering. If we vote for a Liberal Democrat candidate, then obviously we would have another say which deal we want to approve.
Paul Nuttall.
Well, turnout was already up for the referendum, so people are more engaged. And if that vote comes out, and the only Brexiteer, true Brexiteer, who's standing in this election, hopefully they'll come out and vote UKIP. But the one word that we're getting on the doorsteps is change, okay? And if you don't go out and vote for the UKIP candidate and get me elected, nothing will change.
Gareth.
I would say to local people they need to think carefully about how they vote. I believe we need a strong local voice that can stand up for Stoke-on-Trent. I came here to make my family, Paul came here to make his name, and that's the difference between the pair of us. I want to see this city thrive and I want to be our strong voice in Parliament.
This election is about sending a clear message that the referendum result must be respected, and I'm backing Theresa May's clear plan to ensure that result is delivered successfully.
I just want to sort of an overarching thought now. In a way, you all say that you're going to win. How do you think that this is going to impact on the political life across the country?
Well, you know, I think this is going to impact significantly, and it is an important election, particularly for Stoke-on-Trent, and ensuring that that referendum is respected and we elect somebody who's local, born and bred, is extremely important.
I think this election will show that the Labour Party is, and always will be, the party that stands up for the working people of this country.
It will shake the establishment to the core if I win. I will stand up for the little people, the small people, the people who've been left behind, and things will change quickly.
Briefly,
Well, public I'm sure, would be listening, and they have listened in other constituencies where the by-elections happen, in other local councils. We just only last Thursday won a by-election in Rotherham, which was on the back of Brexit. This by-election is going to pave the way. What is the direction of UK's future?
Adam, you have the last word.
We think it will change because we will drive through rebuilding infrastructure to make this a greener city and a city with better jobs.
Okay. Thank you all. My thanks to all the candidates for being here today, and indeed to everyone here at Staffordshire University for making us all so very welcome. And especially, as I say, to candidates for taking those questions as directly as they did. Well, this debate...
You didn't frankly have the balls to put country before party.